You know what? If you're here early, this is a reward for you guys. Welcome to the patch 9.10 notes. We've gone through all of 9. Pretty much, and we're now at 9.10. Hello, Fur Ends. Welcome to 9.10, the one where we meet the great, the only, the perfectly wonderful Yuumi. Cat Champion, gonna sell a bajillion amount. This patch, while smaller than the last, contains changes to some of our more spicy champions across various skill brackets like Master Yi, Riven, and Vayne. Ooh, they're nerfing Riven and Vayne here? This is really surprising. We're also following up on the changes we made to Strock last patch to continue our ally supporting playstyle. Buffy a few champions with fall train, great. We made adjustments to Conquer and Raid play, great. Holy. These are huge problems in the game, in my opinion, balance-wise. And I really like seeing this. I had known that some of these things were in the works beforehand. I like to disclose if I know any information. Usually I never read the PBE, but I've been following some people on Twitter and they've mentioned it in the past. So I'm excited to see, especially these two changes, as well as any buffs to other weaker champions. Cool. Champion new Yuumi, or Yuumi. Well, actually, I haven't seen her abilities yet. I know she attaches to someone and does some stuff, but like, we'll go over her after we finish the rest of the patch notes. Brand. E damage increased late, ratio increased. Spits some oil. Brand to conflag his early flame. This change favors mid lane Brand more than support counterpart, but will be a bit hotter no matter where he goes. Okay. It's a really minor buff. Like really minor buff. When you look at it this way, it doesn't, the damage increases by 10 at level 3. The AP thing, it makes it a mid late game buff because 0.1 AP ratio is actually a pretty decent amount. And I do agree that it favors mid lane more, but typically actually you're getting almost the equivalent of a solo lane gold if you're snowballing hard on bot lane Brand. So I think it still matters a decent amount. I haven't seen much Brand recently. Generally speaking, when you play Brand, you want to be playing into like a lot of tanks. Like if you're playing against Rek'Sai or like Ornn or like I don't know, Mundo, Cho'Gath, like Brand is your boy because he does percentage health damage and he hits like a truck. So Brand's really good at doing that. I think right now he's kind of weak in the support role and he won't get played in the mid lane role. So like buffs to him, for me, I'm just like, all right, you know what? Whatever. I think that's fine. He's an okay support champion and I don't really care if he gets buffs. I think it's probably necessary for him to get some sort of buffs for him to see more play. I think he might be a lot better in lower elos because I saw some people complain about this champion getting buffs. But from my perspective, it's like, look, I think he does need buffs. And if you're struggling against Brand, that's more of a personal player problem than like a champion problem. Caitlyn, W headshot damage increased, helping Caitlyn out in a way that doesn't affect her already strong wave clear in the late game, focusing on when she successfully maneuvers her traps. Putting more headshot damage early. I talked about Caitlyn in the past before. Caitlyn's a really scary champion to buff because she has such long range. In the hands of really expert players, when she gets ahead, she's like super oppressive because even that extra 25 or 50 attack range matters a lot, and being able to kind of work around her. She's super oppressive early game, and usually what happens if you're oppressive early game, you give up stuff to be oppressive. So what, generally speaking, when you play Caitlyn, her power spike goes like this. She's super strong early. She dips in the mid game and she goes back up in the late game. It's kind of similar to Triss with but more Caitlyn has way more power in the early game, while Triss has a little bit more power in the mid game kind of stuff. But the thing about Caitlyn is sometimes I feel like her mid game power dip doesn't really exist. Like I think if she's doing a good job, I think Caitlyn typically can maintain her power throughout the game. So she's really scary as a champion that could be potentially strong in all facets of the game and one of the best laners as well. So I'm really scared whenever they buff her stuff. This seems like a really small buff, to be honest. It's nice, especially early game. Like level 2, this is really nice. 20 more damage. Nothing to sneeze at, but I do want to say they should be a little bit careful about buffing this champion. But sure, let's keep going. Fiora, W now blocks Braum and Kench's stun. Wait. So previously, before it made it so you got the last stack, you couldn't apply the stack, and then you apply the stack afterwards. And now it makes it so you can completely block the stack. That's actually really good. Really strong. I didn't realize that was the interaction. So I guess Braum before was really strong to Fiora. Now Fiora, this is like a pretty minor, like a very specific buff, right? Both against Kennen and against Braum. So I think this is kind of cool. Especially blocking Kennen stun, like this changes a very, very specific matchup, I would say, in a very, very important way. I do think this is kind of how it should be, so I have no problems with this change. But yeah, it affects these two champions in this matchup a lot. I think I like it. I don't like the way that happens at the moment. I think if she does, you shouldn't be able to just brute force the passive, especially if she has riposte up. Like I think you want to be a little bit more crafty with it. Okay. Graves, Q damage increase late game. Underwhelming will give you power in places that can't be countered. So the reverse the detonation damage. So the damage of the Q when it comes back got buffed by 5, 10, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. This won't matter. Graves is never. Think about Graves. He's never gonna be a bad champion because this is a champion that can clear the jungle fully from range. He's a ranged jungler that's fully sustainable. Like that already is like incredibly difficult. It's like when you play, it's like you're playing Warwick, but you never you don't really have to worry about your resources. If you don't have to worry about your life as a resource when you're jungling, it makes it so, as well as the fact that you can pretty much out skirmish anyone as long as they can't gap close to you. The champion itself is always going to be a powerful champion. I think right now he's not he's probably not in the top 5, but I don't think he's ever fallen off like a top 10 champion ever in his existence because his natural like kit means he's always going to be good. So like these buffs won't really do much. He's still going to be a strong champ regardless whatever happens. So I'm okay with this. I just wanted to clarify that like Graves will never be weak. I think it's really strange for me to see buffs to this champion, I guess is the way to put it, because if you're gonna be buffing any champion, like I want you to buff shit like, you know, Volibear. I want you to buff shit like I mean Mumu got buffed last patch, so I really can't say much about that, but Mumu would have been a good example of something to buff. Maybe even like a buff toward Jungle Quinn or something, but instead like I feel like Graves always comes back and loops in on buffs, and I don't really know why. Let's keep going. Master Yi. So this champion is interesting. I personally hate playing with Master Yis on my team. Because when you play with a Master Yi, generally speaking, it's a champion that is very farm oriented and it's all about him. Like when you play Master Yi, you're the star of the show. Either you're the star for your team or you're the star for the enemy team. It really doesn't, it's one or the other. And so if you're winning, you still can't do much because you wait for your Master Yi before you force to win. And if you're losing, you just wait for your Master Yi to hopefully be strong enough to carry you at some point during the game. And obviously this is not the case every game with Master Yi. But since he's similar to Katarina, he brings nothing but damage. And when a champion brings nothing but damage, they're either really, really powerful or really, really, really useless. And so he's probably my least favorite jungler to play with. I'm curious what they're going to do to change him though. So increase the satisfaction. I feel like I don't know English today. You know what? We're going to skip this word. On key parts of Master Yi's kit while nerfing him in ways that help him out. We don't know satisfaction. Holy shit. That don't know how to counter him. Those with more experience will find Master Yi significantly better or worse, but he won't continue to dominate in average play. Really? He won't continue to dominate. So this is more of a toning down his mid-low elo. Okay. You don't really see much Master Yi in high elo. There's Darjim, the one Master Yi player. I think there's another one, and that's really it. There's only 2 players. Rune and cast time is always really nice quality life buff. Master Yi has struck fewer than the maximum amount of times he can with Alpha Strike. There are no nearby enemy targets. It's called Beta Strike. That's so funny. Okay, so if there's fewer than the maximum amount of targets available, he can strike one target multiple times. So Alpha Strike reduce damage. I get it. So Alpha Strike can is better in lower against lower enemies, like if you catch someone alone or after you wave clear a bunch of other stuff nearby. Cool, I get it. That's cool. I guess no big deal. Remove the cast time, quality life buff. No longer gets 10% attack damage while on cooldown. I think that's fine. Highlander increased by 10%. But it's bonus move speed and not total move speed. Wait, that's actually a pretty big nerf. So I think Master Yi is going to be weaker now. Like, even if we just discount these, this is fine. It makes his single target fighting a lot better. Generally speaking, if you buff champions' skirmishing potential, the better they become. Because a lot of early game champion strength relies on how fast can you clear the jungle, how healthy are you when you clear the jungle, and can you skirmish early in 2v2s or around scuttle, 1v1s. Alpha Strike makes you better at being able to do that. You're still not going to be great at it, but you're better at it, so you're a better champion. That's what I think. But nerfs to the Highlander, as well as the biggest thing, because he was the biggest. They nerfed Rageblade, okay, and I haven't really looked specifically at the nerfs, but Master Yi is a huge exploiter of Rageblade. With his actual passive and Rageblade passive doing like disgusting amounts of damage when combined together. And so any nerf to Rageblade automatically nerfs Master Yi, and I don't necessarily think these changes are buffing him in any way outside the skirmish potential. I think losing movement speed isn't great. I think especially the Rageblade nerf is going to be great, so he's going to be worse, and I don't necessarily think he's a good champion in the first place. Maybe the Alpha Strike buff is going to be a lot better than I expect. Maybe I'm underestimating how much the additional damage Beta Strike adds, but it seems like Master Yi is just going to get weaker this patch, and I don't necessarily think he's a good champion at the moment. All right, let's keep going. Q, Riven, Q cooldown now scales, E cooldown increase. Looking to target the point of frustration that players play with placing Riven. Her uptime defense from spamming E will now be able to cast Q more often. Playing against her will be more manageable. She have more points. Her Q cooldown going down is actually crazy. Going down by 3 seconds at max rank. It starts at 12 is actually a pretty big buff. So my initial thoughts on this was what made it so you couldn't just buff or nerf the champion? Is it because the champion's too popular with the player base right now? Because I would like to see how this nerf affects Riven by herself. I think this is the E Valor nerf is significant, very, very important, and a good way for Riot to target and nerf onto a champion. Very rarely say all three of those when I look at a change for a patch notes. So I think they did a good job targeting what makes Riven problematic. I think they had a good numbers adjustment on it, and it was great. Now my problem is when you look at, do you need to give Riven something back for her nerfs? I don't know. And I understand Conqueror is also being nerfed right now. So maybe like they need to make an appropriate damage adjustment as well. But I think that like Conqueror affects a lot of other champions and not just her. So I'm surprised to see a buff alongside a nerf with this champ. Overall, this looks like a net nerf for sure. Unless you're snowballing so hard you don't care about Valor. So like pre 2 items, which is probably going to be Shojin, this is going to be a pretty significant nerf. And you know what? I like it. I think that it's good. I just am surprised they decided to tag along a significant buff with a significant nerf. Let's keep going. R, we modernized Shaco's ulti. So pierce 200 range in the direction of Shaco's cursor facing the clone. And the clone appears 200 range in the opposite direction. What? Oh, so you can control the Shaco ulti now. Cool. I think Shaco's supposed to be kind of a trickster champion, so I think having this and it's not completely random at random range is better. Giving the control to the Shaco player is definitely a better thing. Small buff, but should help. It's just funny because I feel like Shaco is more of a deceiver than LeBlanc, and I think stylistically, I feel like LeBlanc should be more have something like this. But I mean, disregarding that, I think this is a good change. I don't think Shaco's OP, and I think he should have this type of control. Cool. Soraka, key movement speed increased, decays more slowly. We missed the power level. These changes are significant enough that Tarkov's case should be now relevant with Soraka and her allies making heat of the moment choices. Okay. This, when I see stuff like this, I'm trying to think in my head, what does this mean? You know? How do I describe rapidly? What does significantly less rapidly mean? What is the... Ugh! I don't know what this means, but I think it's just a buff, right? You literally just get more bonus move speed. So great, cool, excellent. It's just a small buff. I don't think the current version of Soraka is that good right now, and I do think that this is nice, pretty nice. Also affects solo lanes quite a bit. Helpful for that as well. So it's very. I don't know how small of a buff it is because I don't really know what the movement speed decay actually means. I don't know what these words mean, but off the top of my head, I should expect it to be like a small buff to the champion. Trendamere, equal on decreased, AP ratio decreased. Struggling in the role with more mobile range opponents in the top lane, we're helping his mobility so he can find more footing in his matchup. And then nerfing the AP ratio. Scary champion the buff. Super impressive when ahead, but I don't really see Trendamere much. I don't think Trendamere is very good right now. I think targeting his mobility by 1 second is a good way to do it. I think this is a good buff. Really, really annoying to play against this champion, but like I'm sure that could equally be said for any champion that I play or other people play. And so my personal preference aside, I think that this is a good buff for the champion that's relatively weak right now. Vayne, our tumble cooldown reduction now scales. We want to work on targeting the frustration around playing around Vayne beyond her raw stats. These changes lessen her power spike at 6, so it's 30 to 50%. Okay, I think that's a good nerf. I care less about this than I care about the Rageblade nerf. So for me, getting Vayne nerfs on top of the Rageblade nerfs is like it's Christmas time. I'm happy about it. I think nerfing Vayne any more than this would probably make it so that she doesn't see much play. I think Vayne should be a more situational type pick. I remember talking to Cutie and he was always saying like, if you could blind Vayne, like that means the meta is bad, because you should never be able to blind pick a champion like Vayne, a champion who's there to like bust low range champions that should be essentially a counter pick AD. But if she's ever like super blind pickable, I think that her balance state is very poor, and that was the case for Vayne, I think, before, and now after Rageblade, after Final Hour, it should be a lot better. Xin Zhao, Q cooldown decrease. Whoa! They gave him 2 seconds off at 1? That's a lot. I don't think he's back to being super OP, but this is a lot better than I expect. It's not something you max first. You always max W first, but which is even better, right? If it's not something you max first and you get clean 2 seconds off the cooldown, that means from like levels 1 to 7, 1 to 9, you're gonna be seeing the most back from this change. Which is great because you want to have an early game snowball, which sends out to snowball away. I'm surprised they buffed him. I don't think he's that bad. Sure, the Scuttler change spawned later, but they didn't give compensatory buffs to or compensation buffs to stuff like Kindred, who is like directly impacted by this. But somehow Xin Zhao sees play. Pantheon jungle didn't see play either, or see buffs either. I'm kind of shocked to see this. He's definitely going to be better. This is probably one of the more bigger buffs that I've seen. Like these, both of these kind of pale in comparison to the 2 second cooldown on Xin Zhao. This is really helpful. So I don't think he needed this, but this is going to be very helpful for Xin Zhao, especially because it's going to be impactful for like 7 to 9 levels. Actually 10 levels. Zyra, plants no longer take additional damage from base attacks do not trigger on hit effects. What does this mean? Oh, it means that if you're playing MF, you can't one-shot the Zyra plants. or Corky Pass. I didn't know Corky Passive did extra damage. It's really strange because a lot of stuff that does do extra damage doesn't work on Zyra plants. Nico W, the extra damage doesn't work on applying more damage to her W. So or her passive. So I feel like that's kind of awkward, and I wish they just kind of did a do-over on this. But I do think Zyra's kind of weak right now, and I think that having her take additional damage from effects that don't do extra damage should not be the case. I like this buff. Really strong without necessarily changing or increasing the damage. So good stuff there. Essence Reaver, attack damage. We're giving Essence Reaver core users more motivation to consider it as your attack damage option. I mean, Sivir kind of already buys this item. I don't think it should be. Sure, 5 AD is fine. I'm not gonna say don't buy this item. It's getting to the point where it's a strong enough item to where you'd want to consider it on a couple of champions. Sivir being the main champion that already buys this item as well. We're gonna move on from this because I really don't have much else to say. Rageblade, great. Let's talk about one of the most problematic items that's ever been introduced into the game. So, this item is broken. It's just so insane, actually. And I can't. This is like the item that kind of makes me think. Before items like this existed, I thought that Riot should introduce more items every season. Because I think a lot of the game is about like, okay, well, can this comp deal with that comp? And I think having items to be able to deal with certain champions or certain situations in the game are very appealing. It makes the game more fresh. It makes it so that you don't have the static item build that I build every game. I'm not the AD carry building, you know, IE Rapid Fire PD or IE Rapid Fire Shiv GA every game, right? I like that there's flexibility in what you can buy, and that you can change what you buy based on what you have during the game. I think there should be items that are more niche because you're not going to be buying those items unless, you know, you're against something. A good example is like Wit's End, right? Wit's End is something you buy against mages or magic damage users, when you want to be building on hit champions, like stuff like Aurelia. Rageblade is the item that I think makes me feel like I don't want new items in the game, because Rageblade literally makes or breaks multiple champions. Stuff like I don't know, Vayne, Kai'Sa, Yi. Who else uses Rageblade? Jax. He really doesn't use this item. Let's not talk about Jax. He really doesn't. He buys Shojin and just apes on you. Another item which we should talk about, but we're not going to today, or else this will be a 50-minute, like 90-minute movie length patch rundown. But ever since Rageblade has been introduced and Phantom Hit has been introduced in the game, it's been a huge problematic thing for multiple champions. I almost said problematic problem. And other champions have been buffed and nerfed based on how strong Rageblade is. And so, for instance, a good example is Vayne just got nerfed this patch with Master Yi. And those nerfs may not necessarily be that bad, but since Rageblade got nerfed, those champions are way weaker, depending on how big the Rageblade nerf is. And let me tell you, Phantom frequency going from 2 to 3 attacks is huge. That is an enormous difference than what it is before. You get nerfed by 50% in terms of like how many times you can hit the free extra attack. And for on-hit users, this is an enormous change. So those two champions I listed, which may not have gotten nerfed that bad, got nerfed quite a bit due to this change, because they're so intrinsically tied into this champion. Because their on-hits on their kit are so important. Vayne's Silver Bolts, or like Yi's Muju style plus passive, that getting extra attacks gives more value than anything else in the game. So this item has been unbalanceable in pretty much any state and Phantom Hit has been unbalanceable since its introduction. I think maybe now, since they moved it away from 2 attacks, it might be for the first time ever in an okay spot. I think about how important 2 attacks is, and it's a huge difference, especially for champions that have that are 3-hit passives which can proc off 2 autos. I think switching it over, it's still going to be strong, and it should be strong over the length of a fight. And Rage Blade should in essence be an item that, or they wanted it to be an item that you bought later, right? That's why the armor pen and magic penetration started at 0.5% and went up to 15. But notice that no one ever follows what Riot wants. So this became like a first item buy on some, or second item buy on Vayne, and second item buy on like Yi as well. Because again, Phantom Hit, super OP. So I think at 3, we were getting to the point where it might be balanceable enough to be able to be put in the game without me being really pissed off about it. And that you can finally adjust champions to work around 3 autos. I don't even think they needed to do this. I think their idea is like, hey, it needs compensation buffs because we're nerfing it. I don't necessarily think that they needed to do that. But, you know, I'll humor it because I think whatever buffs these are, it doesn't really matter because this is such a huge nerf, the Phantom Hit frequency. So let me TLDR this. I'm very happy they nerfed this item because this item has been a problem for a lot of different champions. There will be champions that are immediately weaker because of this item, but I think rather than the item being extremely busted and hard to balance around, instead you can buff up those champions. They still want to buy this item in specific situations, or because their champion scales really well with it, but doesn't immediately, the power spike off getting this item doesn't immediately break the balance of the game, which I think it does for champions like Vayne or Master Yi. So I'm happy to see this, very happy. Thank fucking God. Let's move on. Hunter's Talisman. Champions pets now also apply to burn. What? Like Tibbers? Oh, Elise. Oh, huge Elise buff. What the f... Oh, wow. Malzahar and Elise got buffed like crazy. Did Elise need buffs? Elise is one of the craziest early game ganking junglers in the game. Yeah, Elise, Zyra, and Malzahar got buffed off this. So this buff is so niche, like, and York. So it buffed 4 specific, very, very specific champions. Maybe affects Heimer as well. This is so strange. I'm worried for I think of all the champions, maybe they need it. The most important thing is Elise. Now that's a champion I'm scared of. This may push Elise like into being like super powerful. The thing is, the only saving grace is Elise doesn't really have sustained problems a lot of times. But making sure that she definitely doesn't have sustained problems makes this very interesting. If you're an Elise player, you should love this change. I'm a little bit worried about Elise's power level after this. I'm gonna be honest. Alright, let's keep going. Runic Echoes. Whoa, really? They're buffing AP junglers and they're buffing Elise. Riot, what are you trying to tell me? What is this, dude? Okay. So my problem with this is I don't necessarily think Runic Echo junglers are that bad. I see Karthus in my games and I think, what the hell happened with this champion? Which, by the way, I don't see Karthus nerfs, which is really surprising. I think that's the one AP champion that probably should see some stuff. But yeah, I think Eve and Karthus especially, and Elise are going to see a lot of playing be really good. Eve maybe less so, but I don't necessarily think they need some buffs. I guess it's only 150 gold or 125 gold, so it's not that much, but this is definitely more than I expected. Anyway, let's keep going. Runes. Conquer, true damage and healing decrease. We hear you, it's too strong, so we're nerfing it. Okay, I like this. Straight to the point, we get it. OP. 8% of the damage dealt against champions converted to true damage. So this doesn't seem like a lot. They nerfed it by 20%. If I gave you a 20% nerf on any of your champions, you'd be pissed. Any of their abilities. So 20% nerf to a keystone, you know, is a pretty hefty hit. I am still kind of alongside the board that, like, I don't really like that it gives healing. But you know what? Riot's obviously not backing off on this. Riot doesn't want to introduce fervor battle, and it's pretty obvious that, like, they do not want to do it. They're keeping an iteration of healing and true damage into the game. Whatever. I I can live with it. I'm not gonna battle for something I'm never gonna get. So if the case is Conqueror has to have healing and damage in the game, nerfing it down, especially by 20%, is significant, and I like it a lot. %2 is just equals 20%. Like it does 20% less for you, and that is a lot. Don't look down on the numbers here, for sure. It's something really important. All right, let's keep looking. ARAM balance changes. All right, so as you all know, I love ARAM, so we're gonna skip this entire section because no one plays this mode. Actually, that's not true. Actually, a ton of people play this mode. I personally don't play this mode. I apologize. None of these are different. Oh, and the Battle Academia skins are coming? Oh my god. This skin line is gonna sell. She's hot. This skin line is gonna sell so much. Oh my god. Here, let me I really love the cat. I think it's sick. Yuumi is sick as well. I like the cat and I like the Lux. In game, I think the Ezreal one looks cool too. So this is gonna be sick. Wait, I think I forgot to give away skin codes. Oh, we'll talk about that later. So let me go over to talk about the entire patch. Let me zoom in a little bit. Usually I need 125. I think I saw a lot of good things in this patch. Some of the stuff I didn't necessarily know if they needed buffs, like Caitlyn, for instance, or Graves. I feel bad for Master Yi players, even though I dislike them as players. I don't like this champion. I think that they got hit with a pretty hefty stick, and into the kneecaps. I think they did a lot of good things with this patch, mainly Riven E nerf, Vayne nerf, Conqueror nerf, Rageblade nerf being the thing that I think is the most important. Conqueror nerf. Alright, I said that. So like, I'm really happy with some of the stuff they did. A little confused with the rest of the stuff. I would say overall, it's a good patch, but I think it's kind of a little bit awkward when at the very beginning of the patch when they say buffing a few champions that have been faltering as late, and I get a buff on Brand, Caitlyn, Graves, right? Tryndamere, and Xin Zhao, and I guess Zyra. I just expected different champions, right? I expected different things. I understand they can't humor everyone, but I expected more buffs for different champions, and I don't think I got that. I'm very happy to see the adjustments, but I feel like this patch fell short a little bit on the buff category. All right, let's talk Yuumi, because I have not seen this champion at all. So I'd known this champion was coming out because I had seen original. I'd seen her like concept art as well as a little video of her before. I don't remember any of her abilities except for she attaches to people. So let's keep going. Oh god, this is her lore. Okay, let's not do that. That one doesn't matter. Okay, I just want to know what her abilities are. Every so often, next attack against the opponent restores mana and grants her a shield. If Yuumi is attached, the shield protects her ally. She'll protect Yuumi or her ally until it's broken. Oh, so it just lasts indefinitely. It's like Rakan passive. Okay. Yuumi fires a projectile that deals magic damage to first damage hit. If the missile is in flight long enough, it deals bonus damage and slows enemies. Is there like a better thing that I can see? How come it doesn't have? Usually, every single champion release has a page you can go to. Why is the real reveal page not put in here? They have no more reveal pages? Wow, I'm so depressed. Oh, they rushed info earlier about the leak. Okay, let's keep going. Deals magic damage to first enemy hit. If the missile is in flight long enough, it deals bonus damage and slows enemies. When attached, fires a missile from her ally position and can direct the missile's path with her mouse. Oh, cool. She can direct the missile's path. When attached, Yuumi and her ally gain a percentage of each other's AD or AP converted to adaptive force. Starts with a point in her W. She dashes her ally champion and attaches to them. While attached, she follows her partner's movement untargetable by everything except tower damage. Okay. So she's just Wisp. She's Wisp in from Dota in this game. Heals and gains a burst of movement speed. Oh, and her E heals. Okay, so she heals. She can slow champions. She shield champions. Okay. Her ulti is usable while moving, attaching to ally champ. Dude, I have to see how she looks. What is this? Wait, this is just the original trailer of it. Oh, there's no champion spotlight. There's no unveiling. Wow, I'm kind of sad about this. I actually really like the champion reveal pages, and I'm sad that Yuumi doesn't have one. I feel like my first impression of her is that it could be she's anything. She's just a cute ass cat. She's gonna sell a bunch, but I really wanted to see her abilities with videos.